Namaskara, Hari Om, my dear friends. Nisargadatta AVSC group wishes all of you and your near and dear ones a very, very happy Shivarathri 2023. To mark the second anniversary of AVSC that falls on this Shivarathri day, we would like to share our understanding of Driptrisha Viveka to our beloved teacher, Sri Prabhuji. Well, let's begin then with an introduction to the very text and also the basics of the seer-seen discrimination by our very elderly senior member, Sri Maneji, who brings so much of peace energy with him.
Drishya Viveka conveys some aspects of the Vedantic truth. Drishya Viveka is also a Prakarana Grantha. Vedanta says the end of search is also end of knowledge, which is Sat Chit Ananda. To know this truth, a purified mind and a sharp intellect is necessary. Man is trying to know this truth by various ways, through religious practices, through science in the external world. To know about ourselves is spirituality. Drishya Viveka gives us a clarity between seer and the seen, which is the duality. The truth is beyond subject and object. The worldly objects are seen and the sense organs are seer. The sense organs are seen and the mind is the seer. The Sakshi, witness Sakshi is the seer and the mind is seen. The Sakshi also notices the changes and modification of the mind also. Hence, witness consciousness is the ultimate seer and all other things are seen. Generally and naturally, we all address in the day-to-day transaction as I and I am. This is same with all the people, all the human beings. This I and I am never changes. In spite of body, mind, intellect are continuously changing. The changeless I is the self. That is you only. You are that. Hence, Tat Tvam Asi. Hari Om.
Now is the time to watch the energy and enthusiasm of Srimas Murthy as he describes how the inert sense organs receive sentiments and the three identifications of the ego and its three manifestations.
My discussion is about three types of identifications of the ego, their cause, and how to overcome them. Consciousness is the real sentient, that is a real seer, and all other sense organs, including body, mind, and intellect, are nothing but instrument of Sakshi. They are Jada. They borrow sentient from original consciousness as reflected consciousness to witness as Sakshi. In a big fire, when iron ball is heated, it becomes luminous and look like a fire. In reality, it is a borrowed principle of fire. Further, it clearly explains that the reflected consciousness of ego is behaving as if a real consciousness and act as real knower because of total ignorance. Example, sun and reflected light on water. The three types of identification of ego is one with the body, and secondly with the reflected consciousness, and thirdly with Sakshi. The ego identifies with the body due to karma, accumulation of impressions in the form of memories by the ego, and it identifies with a particular body to experience that karma. And secondly, ego identifies with reflected consciousness because of proximity, which is natural. And thirdly, ego identifies with Sakshi is due to total ignorance. Ignorance is anadi, and ego is unaware of real consciousness as Sakshi. Example, the bulb is not aware that it is glowing because of electricity, and this is the ignorance. So the ego will disidentify itself when it realizes through jnana that both ego and reflected consciousness are not real. Then ego merges with Brahman, and all the three identification ceases. The identification of ego with the body is not all the time. In deep sleep, or when we are unconscious, or coma, or when anesthesia is given, there is no identification of ego. In deep sleep, ego goes to the unmanifest state. In this state, there is no external objects, no physical and mental world. It is a no thought state. In dream state, the ego is half manifested. In this state, the ego is identified with the mind and experience the objects of mind which are stored as memories. But in waking state, ego is fully manifested. The mental objects like thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and all physical objects as we see the world. Thank you.
Give any topic to Sajni ji, and she'll organize her thoughts about it so very well. Let's watch her present what Drittrishya Viveka has to say about Maya.
The power of Maya. Now, we must understand that consciousness or Brahman or the real I is infinite and changeless. However, Brahman has the power of concealment and projection. This is known as Maya Shakti. The infinite Brahman appears limited and finite. Now, this is the Jiva. And this is because of the mind and the various sense organs. Avarna Shakti veils the essential nature of reality. And then we have Vikshepa, which is the power of superimposing all that is limited and changing onto existence. We mistake a rope for a snake at night and we get very scared. The snake has been superimposed on the rope. Now, when a movie is projected, it's projected on a huge screen, the movie changes, but the screen does not change. And therefore, we can say that Brahman is like this changeless screen. Jiva is like the movie on the screen, and it keeps changing. Now, we must realize that the projection does not change the screen on which it is projected. Brahman, as we know, is changeless, but it appears to take on the characteristics of the world. It is this Jiva which changes, that transmigrates from life to life. It takes birth, it dies, it suffers. Now, this world is caused by Maya Shakti, or I would say the power of the mind. There is nothing other than Brahman. Without Brahman, we cannot even have the Jiva. And all this we realize when avidya or ignorance ends. Okay, we can also take the example of water, which we can take as Brahman, and the Nama Rupa would be the waves as jivas and the ocean as the whole world. Liberation is the breaking up of this superimposition. Okay, just like the snake disappears when the light is switched on. Maya can be removed by the gyan of knowing, this jnana of knowing the difference between the real and the unreal, that which changes and that which is changed. Thank you. Pranam.
It is wonderful to have a youth in the team. Varunji brings his youthful energy coupled with a deep understanding of Vedanta. Let's listen to him talk about the 5 characteristics of any objects and the different types of samadhis as mentioned in Drisya Viveka.
Everything in the universe has 5 characteristics. Asti, which is existence, Bhati, which is cognizability, Priyam, which is attraction or liking, Nama, which is name, and Rupa, which is form. Of these, the first 3 belong to Brahman and the rest are superimposition on Brahman. Despite this fact, the mind appears in Brahman and creates an illusion of the world and the body-mind complex. But in reality, nothing happens to Brahman. Now, to attain oneness with Brahman, this personality has to meditate and become one with Brahman. This is known as Samadhi. Samadhi can be attained by negating name and form and by focusing on the essence of everything, which is existence. The existence is experienced through consciousness, hence, everything is only consciousness. Consciousness is the real self, and consciousness is the Brahman. Samadhi is of 2 types, Savikalpa and Nirvikalpa. Savikalpa Samadhi means to consciously negate the body, mind and intellect and remember that I am the witness or the eternal consciousness. Nirvikalpa Samadhi, on the other hand, means Samadhi without any mind or imagination. After practicing Savikalpa Samadhi for a long time, mind becomes silent and thoughtless. Hence, awareness alone exists. The mind does not come up and distract the awareness. The I thought or the sense of I am separate is totally gone. Practice of Nirvikalpa Samadhi helps one establish in the state of self-realization. Like a businessman who sees money in everything, a person established in Samadhi sees Satchidananda in all objects, external and internal. When you see the non-dual Brahman in the transcendental state and the material world, all karmic impressions get destroyed. All doubts related to self are gone. Due to Samadhi, one realizes that one's true nature is pure awareness. And then when we come back to the world, we realize that the pure awareness itself manifests as the objects of the world. Consciousness alone becomes the sole reality, and because of this, one becomes free from all bondages and becomes totally fearless. Hari Om.
Srinivas Babuji brings a lot of cheer to the group with his lovely, childlike and innocent smile. In this session, he talks about various topics like how the infinite Sakshi comes to be seen as the limited jiva and how a single I presents itself as 3 different types of jivas.
Drisya Viveka now starts teaching Tattvamasi in another way. This teaching begins with describing 3 different ways in which Vedic scholars understand how the infinite Sakshi appears as finite Jiva. The most accepted understanding is that Sakshi thinks itself as Jiva. It feels that it is limited by its body, limited by its sense organs, and limited by its vital forces, that is prana. This is similar to the infinite Mahakasha feeling as a finite Ghatakasha in a pot. The second understanding is that reflected consciousness in the mind identifies with the modifications in the mind and thinks that it is limited. Third understanding is that universe is a mere illusion. The dream characters projected in the illusory universe are the jivas. In Vedanta, three types of jivas are recognized. That is, I is conceived as Paramarthika jiva, I as Vyavaharika jiva, and I as Pratibhasika jiva. Brahman has the powers of projection and veiling known as Maya. This Maya Shakti has been projecting ever-changing illusory world on Brahman. In simple terms, this illusory world is called Brahman's dream. Everything in this universe, including all body, mind, intellect, are inert. But due to their close proximity to absolute consciousness, they all start reflecting consciousness and become sentient. This reflected consciousness in mind, called Chidabhasa, is the Vyavaharika Jiva. This Vyavaharika Jiva identifies with body and mind and starts experiencing their joys and sorrows as its own. Because of this, desires arise. To fulfill those desires, Vyavaharika Jiva assumes doership and in the process gathers papa and punya and gets into cycle of birth and death. Vyavaharika Jiva, the waking character in the Brahman's dream, has the power of sleeping. When it sleeps, it dreams, and another dream world is created in the Brahman's dream by it unconsciously. This dream character is the Pratibhasika Jiva. Vyavaharika Jiva, the waking character in the Brahman's dream, which assumed doership and caught in the cycle of birth and death, is the one which needs to be liberated. On obtaining and assimilating Tattvamasi knowledge, it wakes up from the Brahman stream, stops identifying with its body and mind, realizing Nanu Nanembudu Nanalla, E Deha Manabuddhi Nanalla, Satchidanandatma Shivananu Nane. This realized Jiva is Paramarthika Jiva. This is Tvam, that absolute reality, Tat, in Tattvamasi teaching. Paramarthika Jiva sees Paramarthika Satya everywhere, all the time, in all the three states of consciousness, whereas in ordinary people, the two lower realities overrule the absolute reality. Om Shri Sadguru Parabrahmarpanamastu.
The last section of Tritrisha Viveka helps us resolve the lower levels of reality into its successive higher levels of reality, ultimately leading to self-realization. Let's begin with the dream state then. To the dreamer, called Pratibhasika Jiva in Tritrisha Viveka, the dream appears very, very real, isn't it? Now, it is only when this dreamer wakes up from its dream into its waking state as the waking consciousness or Vyavaharika Jiva will it realize the illusoriness of the dream. Extending the same reasoning, Tritrisha Viveka points out that it is only when this Vyavaharika Jiva wakes up from its waking dream into its witness consciousness called Paramarthika Jiva will it realize the limitations of even this waking state. Even though Paramarthika Jiva is of a higher level of reality when compared to Vyavaharika Jiva and Pratibhasika Jiva, there is still one bit of duality left in this Paramarthika Jiva because of the distinction and separation between the witness and the objects that are being witnessed. This last trace of duality is resolved when the Paramarthika Jiva realizes its non-dual state through the teaching of Tattvamasi by the realized teacher. Now, when Paramarthika Jiva realizes Tattvamasi, it can't remain in Paramarthika state eternally. It descends into the Vyavaharika state because it is embodied, but this time lit up with the light of non-dual awareness. Now, when such a Vyavaharika Jiva interacts with the world through its body-mind complex, its actions are for the welfare of all beings, because there is not even one trace of selfishness or a sense of separation left in it. Now, therefore, this becomes Atmano Mokshartham on one side and Jagathitayacha on the other side, which is the very purpose of human existence, isn't it? Such a jiva has no karma whatsoever because it is disidentified completely with the body, and in fact, it is even beyond bondage and liberation. Om Tat Sat. May all beings be happy. Lokaha samastaha sukhino bhavantu.